Okay, finishing out lesson 3-6, we are going to look at some story problems. So we are going to define our variables, we are going to write a system of equations, and then we're going to solve by substitution. So this time we're going to solve these using our substitution, and they'll all be fairly simple to do in that method. So it says Taylor is selling discounted Xbox and Wii games. He sold 17 games. So this is telling us how many games he sold. What is it that I don't know? I know he sold 17 games, but there are two different kinds, so what is it that I don't know about? And so that can help you define your variables. You can also look at the last part of the question where it says how many of each type of game did he sell. Those are the two things I don't know. I don't know how many Xbox games, so the number of Xbox games. This is kind of an old question. So I'm going to call that X. And the other thing I don't know is the number of Wii games. And so I can call that W or Y. I'll just call it Y. And that's defining my variables. Now, reading the rest of the question, he sold 17 games. He sold Xbox games for $5 each. So if he sold one Xbox game, he got $5. If he sold two of them, he got $10. If he sold three of them, then he would get $15. And so on. So what we're doing, we know how much money he gets. What I don't know is I don't know how many he sold. So he gets $5 for every Xbox game he sells. And he gets $4 for every Wii game he sells. So this is talking about the money. Okay, so this is $5 and $4. And so the answer is going to be in dollars too. So it says Taylor made $79. So this is all about dollars, that question, or that equation is. So I need another equation. So what's the other thing that I haven't used yet? I haven't used the 17, and that's talking about how many games he sold. So he sold 17 games. Some of them were Xbox and some of them were Wii. So if we take the number of Xbox games and the number of Wii games, it makes 17. And so this is talking about the quantity of games that he sold. So kind of dividing out your equations to think about it like that in terms of money or quantity or whatever, that kind of helps sometimes. Also, making sure you read the question. That tells us basically what our variables are going to be about. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to solve. So you need to look at this system right here and say, well, I have to solve one of those equations for either X or for Y. What would be the easiest thing to do? So probably the easiest thing to do would be to subtract Y from both sides, or you could subtract X from both sides on that same equation. It doesn't matter. And so then I'm going to put this back up here into that first equation. So I'm going to have 5 times 17 minus y plus 4y equals 79. So let's multiply it out, or simplify it. So 5 times 17 is going to be 85, and 5 times negative y plus 4y equals 79. Okay, so I'm going to combine my like terms. Negative 5y and 4y is negative y. So I've got 85 minus y equals 79. So I'm going to subtract 85. And I'm going to get negative y is equal to 79 minus 85 is negative 6. So if negative y equals negative 6, then positive y equals positive 6. So this means that he sold 6 Wii games, because that's what y is. So if he sold 6 Wii games, then how many Xbox games did he sell? Well, we know that he did however many Xbox plus 6 Wii games is 17. So you can solve that and you find out he sold 11 Xbox games. So on your test, you're going to have to show defining your variables, how to write your system. You're going to have to show your work for how you solved it, and you're going to have to show your labeled answers. You cannot do an ordered pair for this. You have to say what each thing means. So you can't just say 11 and 6. You have to say 11 what. Okay, let's go to the next one. The sum of two numbers is negative 24. So I'm adding two numbers together. What is it I don't know? I know what I get when I add them together, but I don't know what numbers they are. So that tells me what my variables are going to stand for. X is going to be my first number, and Y will be my second number. And of course, you can use whatever variables you want for that. It says the sum of two numbers. So that means when I add them together, I'm going to get negative 24. 3 times the first number minus 3 times the second number is 6. So I've defined my variables and I've written my system of equations. Find the two numbers, that tells me what I'm going to be doing here. Now figure out from this system which variable would be the easiest thing to solve for. I need to solve for x or I need to solve for y. I'm going to take this equation right here and I'm going to subtract y from both sides. I'm not going to write it up there because it kind of messes up my system, but I'm going to have x is equal to negative 24 minus y. And so then I can put this part of it in for x right there. So I'm going to have 3 times negative 24 minus y minus 3y equals 6. So negative 72. And then minus 3y equals 6. And then I'm going to have negative 3y and 3y is negative 6y. Minus 72 equals 6. I'm going to add 72 to both sides. So I'm going to have negative 6y is equal to 78. And then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. So a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And 78 divided by 6 is 13. That means my second number is negative 13. So my second number is negative 13, and you might think, well, it can't be negative. Well, it actually can, because if you're adding two numbers and you get a negative 24, they're going to have to be negative. So now the question is, what's the first number? So I'm going to come up to my first equation, the x plus y equals negative 24, and I'm going to say x plus negative 13 equals negative 24. And I'm going to add 13 to both sides, and I'm going to get negative 11. So my first number is negative 11. So as long as you label your answers, it doesn't matter which one you tell me first, but you have to label. So again, what we're going to be looking for here is we'll be looking to see that you know how to define your variables. We'll be looking to see that you know how to write a system of equations. We will be checking your work, and you have to be able to label your answers and tell what everything stands for. Okay, last question. Hannah has 213 coins in a coin jar consisting of dimes and quarters. So this is similar to a question that we've seen before. So dimes and quarters, what do you know about dimes and quarters? I know that dimes are 10 cents, and we write that as 0.10, and quarters are 25 cents. Now, if you didn't write that with the decimals, you're going to have problems because this is in dollars, so you have to write this in dollars, not cents. So 0.25 is a fourth of a dollar. That's what a quarter is. Okay, and so how many dimes and how many quarters are in the jar? So what is it that I don't know? Let's let D equal the number of dimes and Q equal the number of quarters. Okay, pause the video and see if you can set up your system of equations and then solve it and find out how many dimes and how many quarters. Remember, you can't have part of a dime or part of a quarter, so it has to be whole numbers. You can't have negative dimes and negative quarters, so it has to be positive. So go ahead and see how much you can do, and then we'll come back and see if you did it right. Okay, what you should have done, I know that we have 213 coins in the jar, so if I take the number of dimes and the number of quarters, I should get 213. And that's talking about how many coins there are. Now, if I talk about the value, then I would do 0.10D, because that's 10 cents for every dime, and 0.25Q. Probably the most common mistake that people make on a problem like this is they'll write 10D plus 25Q equals 30.45. So if you're doing that, then you're trying to have it as writing cents, but then you're writing dollars, and you can't do it both ways. You have to decide which way you want to do it. Now, if you wanted to do it that way, you actually can, but you would need to, instead of writing 30.45, you'd need to write 3,045, because that's how many cents are in $30.45. So that's something you could do. I like to kind of keep my numbers smaller, so I probably wouldn't do that. That's going to equal 30.45. Now, to solve this using substitution, I'm going to have to solve one of the equations for either D or Q. Okay, so what do you want to do? So I'm going to subtract Q from both sides. So I'm going to have D is equal to 213 minus Q. And then I'm going to put that in for D. So 0.10 times 213 minus Q plus 0.25Q is equal to 30.45. Okay, so now I'm going to distribute. So 0.10 times 213, so it's like 10% of 213, so it's going to be 21.3. Definitely want a calculator for this problem because with all the decimals it does make it pretty hard to do quickly. Okay, so all I did was distribute. Okay, now I'm going to combine my like terms. So if I have negative 0.10 plus 0.25, that's like if you have 25 cents and you take away 10 cents, you have 15 cents left. So 0.15Q, that takes care of that, plus 21.3 equals 30.45. I'm going to subtract 21.3 from both sides. So I'm going to have 0.15Q is equal to 9.15. Then I divide by 0.15. And I'm going to get Q is equal to 61. What does that mean? It means that Hannah has 61 quarters in her jar. So if she has 61 quarters and 213 coins altogether, how many dimes does she have? So you would do 213 minus 61, and you find out that she has 152 dimes. So there's your answer. And you can check to make sure. So if you have 152 dimes, how much money is that? It's $15.20. If you have 61 quarters, how much money is that? It's $15.25. Whoops. And so if I add all that together, I get $30.45. And so we checked it. It works. But just like anything else, you can check that.